everybody, and welcome to today's episode of this Organized Life podcast. I am your host, Lori Palau. And if you are listening to this in real time, this is our last episode of 2021. And for many people, they are celebrating the end to 2021, which seemed to just be a bit of an extension of 2020. So cheers to a healthy, happy, and prosperous 2022. But as we wrap up our year-end review, we're going to be having part 2 of our best of episodes. And so I invited my producer, Don Jackson from the Raven Media Group, to join me. He's only going to join me in audio though, people. But join me on the show to share and reflect back on our top episodes of the year. So without further ado, Don, welcome to the front end of the show.
Well, thanks for having me back. I didn't get kicked off last week, so that's good. I thought maybe, you might have found somebody else, but apparently you either liked me or couldn't find anybody.
It's both. I mean, I love having you, but I didn't really look. And the reason why I couldn't find anybody is because I didn't look. I felt who better than to go through the debrief of our year in review than the person who intimately knows the show probably better than I do. And that would be you.
Well, thank you. I was thinking the ratings juggernaut Big J was going to be on instead, but apparently he's working.
He is working. And come on, I like to keep him just, I like to just bring him out every now and again. He's like the elf on the shelf. He just makes appearances every now and again. He doesn't have to be here all the time. So
that's a pretty big elf, because he's what, like 6 foot, 6'1", something like that.
The elf or Josh?
I meant Josh, not the elf.
Yeah, Josh wishes. No, not quite in the 6 foot range, but so, but he'll appreciate that. He'll appreciate that.
Well, that's good. He's a fellow sneakerhead, so that's why I relate with him.
He just got a new tattoo. He just got an Air Jordan 1 on his arm.
Wow.
Pretty cool. Mm-hmm.
I've got an evergreen tree on my arm.
You do? How big is it?
It takes up my full forearm on my right hand, or right arm.
Oh, nice.
No, awesome. No ink for you there, Miss Plow?
I have a lot of ink.
Oh, really?
You didn't know that?
I didn't know.
Oh, I mean, okay. And a lot is relative. It's not a lot. I have, I think, eight tattoos. Let's see, the ones that are easily visible. I've got these 2 on my wrist, which are the girls' zodiac symbols on my wrist. This is my latest. I got 3 that are new. So this is the 3 arrows, and they represent me and my girls, that we are all different and pointing in different directions, but we're connected at the center. And then I've got a butterfly on the back of my, it's like right below my calf, but not quite on the ankle. I have a sun on my other ankle. That was my first tattoo. I've got a cross on my foot with scripture on either 2 of my favorite scriptures. On my right foot, I have a cross with the word faith written in on the back of my neck. And I have a star behind my ear. I think that's it. Is that 8? 1, 2,
I think so.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I think that's it. So, okay. Yeah. Oh, I got some ink.
I only got 2.
Well, I guess if we're comparing, I guess I have you beat, but
you do.
It's really not it's not a competition.
Well, my beard's bigger, so
this is true. This is actually true. So I appreciate that.
I think people looking at me just in general would think I have just a whole bunch of tattoos, because, I go with the bald head look. Well, it's not shaven. It's just a scruff look.
Oh, and then it's just genetic.
No, no. Well, I do. It's weird because I've had cancer 5 times. So when the third time I had chemo, it's weird. I have 2 bald spots on the top of my head that are on either side. They're perfectly round. And everybody thinks when my hair is really, really just growing out, you can see them, and they look like they're like, oh, those were your horns, your horns should be.
Oh my gosh. And you're like, no, those are my battle scars. And then people feel like this big.
Yeah, I would do that, but I mostly just go, yeah, I can
Mhm.
see that.
I'm sure. Because
Yeah. But
you're kind like that. You're a
I
kind
can
soul.
be, I can be, I can be. I can also swing the other way, but that's neither here nor there. And I think we probably should get to this very fun episode.
I know. Well, we're part 2. So if you joined us last week, we went through, and if you didn't, I encourage you to go back and listen. We went through your listener favorite episodes of 2021, and it was judged exclusively on download numbers. So what were our most popular episodes? And I did our top 10 most popular episodes, some of which really pleasantly surprised me of what you guys chose. And it was great. So go back and listen, and we have links to all of them. And if you're a newer listener to our show and want to kind of like go back and test the waters and not have to listen to all 260 whatever episodes, just start picking the top 10, because obviously they are fan faves. So great place to start if you are a newbie to this Organized Life podcast. But today I wanted to share with you my personal favorite episodes. And Don, if you would like to share some of yours, that's totally fine. You can too. I don't want to give you any extra homework than you already have working with me. So I figured I would do the heavy lifting. And in order for me to do that, I actually went through and listened to a lot of the episodes. Some of them that I knew, I went through, and each one that I chose, I went through and handpicked like the segments that really spoke out to me. So this was a lot of prep work. There was a lot of time that went into these last 2 episodes. Not that there isn't time invested in all of them, but specifically, it really made me go back and think, which is something I don't like to do. I'm like a forward thinker. I'm always planning the next thing ahead. So to go back and reflect on the year was an exercise in patience for myself. So that in and of itself was a learning experience. But I'd love for you to weigh in as we go through each one of these. Sound like a plan?
That sounds great. I can do that. I think I noticed there's I think we can foreshadow and say I don't have any clutter clinic ones on this one.
There are no clutter clinics. Yes. If you there is a theme that all 10 of these have guests. So there's none of these were solo episodes that I did. And I chose them based on either the topic and the guest. But it was a combination of both. So do you want to kick it off? I'll let you kick it off with and this is I just really quick, people. This is not like my top favorite. Like I just went in chronological order. So all 10 of these are like equal in my favorites, like of my children. They're all loved equally, but for different reasons. So there you have it. So I'll let you kick it off with the first one.
Well, I think we can safely say you semi-fangirled on this first guest. And this is going to be episode 214, and it's going to be Know Yourself, Know Your Money with Rachel Cruz. And she's part of the Ramsey group. And I believe, if memory serves, that is his daughter. Is that correct?
That is. You are 100% correct on all fronts. I absolutely did fangirl. Secretly, when I was interviewing her, I was really hoping that she'd be like, oh my gosh, you are so amazing. I'd love you to come and join the Ramsey personality team. Spoiler alert, that did not happen. So, but we did have a really fun conversation, and I felt like we were friends. I don't know if she felt that way, but I felt like we were friends, and it was a really good conversation. Aside from the fact that I really enjoyed talking to her because I am a huge fan of the whole Ramsey network and all the things that they do there. I love this topic because I think financial health and wellness and awareness is a huge part of living an organized life. I think that a lot of people have financial clutter, and a lot of clutter results out of not being intentional with your finances and buying things for the wrong reasons and all of this other stuff. And so I love the kind of the connection points between the work that Rachel does and the work that I do. And her book, Know Yourself, Know Your Money, really looks at the behaviors of why you do what you do with money, which it has so many parallels to the work that I do, substitute money for clutter. So that was it.
Yeah, I thought she was a great guest. She really was down to earth. She was a fun conversation, which I think all of these have that in common. They're all really good conversations, which if we're doing a podcast, it should be a really good conversation. And I think that was, I think, really great to see. And if memory serves, I think that was one of the first times you actually went on video, and I think we produced it that way.
Oh my gosh. It was, as a matter of fact, it was our debut video like production. Like we had been doing, we started doing video, but we weren't publishing it to YouTube. But I think you're right. I think that was our first published YouTube video, was with Rachel. Totally forgot that. So yeah, if you want to see, you can go watch our conversation on YouTube.
Yeah, like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Great. That's it. See, Don, this is what I keep you around. So I guess we should take a pause and listen to a quick clip from the show.
That sounds good. We know the
Okay.
producer.
Insert clip now.
Tactical things you can put in place with your money fears, but there's also the emotional side you have to deal with as well.
I love that. And I'm so glad that you said that. And again, and from a vulnerability and transparency, like, again, if you even felt rattled, right?
Yes, yeah.
Then how does like the majority of America feel? So it's honest, and it's, it's valid for all of us, but it's what do you do with that information, I think, is what's really important. So let's walk through the different fears that you talk about in the book, because I think that is going to be really helpful for people.
Yes, one of them, which was written before the pandemic. So I'm like, oh, this is so funny how things just happen in a book that you write a year before all of this. But it was that external forces are really going to not allow me to get ahead financially. That's because of what's happening, things out of my control. It's going to make a major impact, and I won't be able to get ahead. So that's everything from elections to a pandemic, to corporate America. I mean, it's all these things that we realize, well, we don't have control over. And again, I think we are shaken to our core in 2020, realizing, yeah, there are things we do not have control over, but what are the things that we can control? So,
all right, my next episode was, I loved this conversation. And I actually got a lot of feedback in real life personally. Like, people were texting me and DMing me about how great this episode was. And it was episode 215, which was estate planning with Shakisha Morgan. And Shakisha is an attorney. I feel like she was in Baltimore. I'm like forgetting where she is based off. I want to say she's in Baltimore, but she was on talking all about the importance of what is estate planning, who needs it, why you need it, how often do you need to update it, all of the things. And everyone loved her because she was like a real person. She didn't speak in legalese. Like our friend Jamie is also like a real person. She doesn't speak in, legalese that's above your head. And Shakisha just really broke things down into practical actions of this is what you need to do, and this is why you should do it, and this is when you should do it, and this is how you can do it. And she just removed the huge, elephant in the room of things about when you need a will and power of attorney and all of these boring adult things that a lot of times people either procrastinate on or just have anxiety or overwhelm and they just put it off. And she just made it so digestible. It was a great conversation.
It was. And I think why she related to not just you, but to our listeners as well, is she made it interesting. And you would think of all the things that would not be interesting, because we're essentially talking about this is what's going to happen when I die. And we're going to have this conversation. And she made it interesting. I don't know if I necessarily agree with you that Jamie Lieberman of #legal is interesting at all.
Oh,
I'm just
stop
saying.
it. You're such a liar. He's just busting. Jamie's our friend and an amazing attorney. So shout out to #legal. And she's the smartest, most non-stereotypical lawyer that you'll ever meet.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she has quite a few tattoos as well.
She does. And
she
what,
has
pink hair, like a pink streak in her hair.
She has naturally tipped. I don't know if you've ever had this conversation with her, but she has naturally tipped red hair.
What does that mean, naturally tipped?
I think in her world, that means it's not
It's like
manufactured by somebody.
What, it's like an organic product? Is that what that means?
So. It just naturally appears, but if her hairdresser puts it there. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, we do love Jamie. I was busting humps, but
yes.
No, going back to the episode, it was really, I enjoyed that interview simply because, like I said, it wasn't two things about that subject matter. It's when you hear it, it's going to be boring and it's going to be morbid. And she made it none of those things, which I do agree with you as far as comparing it to Jamie, how when she talks about legal stuff, it's none of those things. When reality, it's really all of those things. But when they talk about it, it's not. And that's what's really great about her as a guest, which I really enjoyed the episode.
Yeah. And again, we're going to play a quick clip, if I could speak, just kind of talking about, who needs estate planning, why you need it. And it was really eye-opening, especially as the mom of bigs who are now entering into young adulthood, about thinking about it's not just old people that need to do and think about these things. It's really anybody that is independent and for different reasons. But again, it doesn't have to be scary or morbid, like you said. So here we go. Here's a clip from my conversation with Shakisha Morgan.
But we do free estate planning workshops that give you like estate planning 101. And so you could tune into that workshop, and it will let you know that you're entering the process with a little more knowledge, right? You're not just coming from off the street, but you got a little more information about what estate planning is and where you can start. But if you have beneficiary designations, if you have life insurance, if you have 401k, even if you have your bank accounts, you want to make sure that there is a designee for all of your assets right now until you finish establishing your estate plan, a designee on all of your assets right now, that when you pass, whenever that is, that who that goes to is who you've designated on that particular account. So that's something that you all can do today. Make sure your life insurance beneficiaries are there on current. I talked to someone who had his ex-wife that they had divorced like 30 years prior, and she was still the beneficiary on his life insurance because he forgot to go back and update it. So make sure your life insurance is updated. Make sure your retirement beneficiaries are updated. Make sure all of your bank accounts have payable on death designees. You can do that today.
All right, Don. Oh, I love this next episode. Do you remember her?
Yes, I do. And you can have it if you want. I'll give it to you.
Okay. So the next one was episode 224, and it was called Clean Eating with Holland Hammond. And Holland is, first of all, I think in like my next life, I want to come back as her because she's fun and smart and talented and gorgeous. And she lives in Hawaii. So honestly, like who doesn't want to like check all of those boxes? And I had Holland on for to talk about life as a vegan. And I had a little bit of an ulterior motive for wanting to have her on because, as many of you know, JP is going on, it'll be 2 years that he'll be a vegan. And so when Holland's publicist reached out to us, she was like, would you like to have her on the show? She has a new vegan cookbook out. I was like, yeah, I'd like to take a look at this cookbook. And I got the cookbook and I tried a bunch of recipes and I was like, oh, I love this. Yes, I would love to chat with her. And so we had a really great conversation and I loved it because she talked about her journey of becoming a vegan. And she's not over the top. Like, this is her jam for sure. But she studied as a pastry chef. So she was like classically trained with butter and like rich foods. And here now she is this like clean eating guru. But she makes these savory dishes that don't taste vegan. Like, she has this French toast. OMG. It's delicious. And if nobody said that this is vegan, people would not even think twice. But I just loved chatting with her. Do you remember any thoughts about that episode?
I do. I'll give you one where I think you talked about how you've made these dishes for Josh and you actually liked them.
True story.
And I
Yeah.
found that interesting. But a little behind the scenes is, I know you know this because you heard it as well as I did. She had like chickens in the background. And I think I got rid
Yes.
of most of those chickens.
There was a
in
couple though.
post.
There might even be in the clip that that we're playing. Because I was re-listening to the episode, I heard the chickens and I started laughing. Yeah, because she was like in Hawaii and she's probably at a beach. And yeah, there was some beach farm. I don't know where she was.
I don't know either, but she was like, kept in green jeans and you could hear those. And I thought I got rid of some of them, but there was some I just couldn't get rid of.
It's okay.
But, I thought it was kind of
it made it more authentic.
Yes, but it was a great interview, and like I said, the thing I remember is you had gotten the book before, and you had made the recipes, and you had said, I don't really care for vegan cuisine mostly, but I really enjoyed the stuff that I made from your book, and I that was a takeaway for me.
Yeah, because I get bored. Like, I do a lot of cooking, and I try to incorporate new and different things. But I liked her stuff because it was really easy to make. And it was very flavorful. And it was, again, I think any mainstream person would eat it. Unless you're specifically someone that's like, I only want meat and potatoes, then probably you might feel like a little like lost. But she had this like eggplant parm, and I'm using parm in quotes because it's not real cheese, but like it was delicious. It was so, so good. And her recipes were really simple. And actually, she reached out to me afterwards because a bunch of people bought her cookbook after listening to the episode. So you're welcome for that. So yeah, definitely check it out, and check out her book also, which is I forget, is it called Clean Eating? I think it might be. I forget, but it's in the show notes, so you'll be able to see. And I guess we'll play a clip now.
Fly somewhere and you're driving and you're gripping the handle and you're like, oh my God, I have to pay attention. It's because we're not in that autopilot. And so that's part of it. You're going to have to learn new ways. But, I can tell you that I promise it becomes as normal as the lifestyle you're living now. For me, it's just as easy to throw in broccoli or, I love these field roast nuggets into the toaster oven. I don't use a microwave.
Yes.
As it was to throw in chicken nuggets,
All right, Don, you're up. The next one.
Well, the next one is another small fangirl moment, I think, for you, not because of who she was, but the fact that the two of you were geeking out about the Enneagram before we started. And usually behind the scenes, folks, here, little behind the curtain, we usually talk probably for about 2 minutes, maybe max, to the guest before we get ready to start the recording, just to get quick introductions and stuff like that when we get started. I do my little spiel. Most of it is me talking my little spiel, but this is one of the few times where I actually had to go, hey, we got to get started. I
so don't remember that. That's
Yeah.
so funny.
Yeah, the two of you were geeking out about the Enneagram, and you've done that a few times. It's a few of our guests. There was one, like, I think your all-time favorite guest, and I might be wrong, is and I always forget his name.
Ian Cron.
Yeah, that one, I think you wanted to talk to him a lot more, but it was one of those where you're like, that was one of those ones where I thought you were so starstruck. You were like, I don't know what to say next, which, listen, folks, if you don't know Lori, that is usually not something she suffers from, as far as not being able to have the words for something. But anyway, getting back to this one, and the title of this one is, it is not Geeking Out with Enneagram, which I think would be an awesome title. It's called episode 236, Little Things, with Aaron Leonard. And it was an interesting episode. I thought, the two of you went back and forth, and like I said, whenever the Enneagram comes up, you like to light up. And it was a really fun conversation.
Oh, that's so funny. And I see you pick up all those things that I guess, block out or don't pay attention to. So I love the conversation. Aaron and I were introduced through a couple of like mutual work connections. And she started this business doing graphics, and she's a blogger and like gratitude journals about little things that are important to her. And it started as a blog and turned into this business. And she's a mom of littles. And so we talked about kind of that women mom entrepreneurial journey. We talked about the importance of gratitude, about authenticity. And she was just super down to earth. And I really, really just loved chatting with her and learning about how her approach and how she's worked gratitude into her professional world as well as into her personal life with all the relationships, whether it's relationship with her spouse, relationship with her kids, her friends, what have you. And so I just remember the conversation being really kind of organic and inspiring. And I thought it would be fitting, especially as we reflect back on the year, that's happened, and think about the year ahead. I always think gratitude is such a big thing. And this show really was about noticing all the little things. And that's what her whole brand is. And so I loved it. And I totally forgot about the Enneagram pre-record stuff. So, but yeah, you are right. As always.
Hey, could you tell that to my two boys?
Of course I will. And so here's a clip. Here's a clip from my conversation with Aaron Leonard.
Practice this, oh, mom has a gratitude blog, like, let's write a list. They are okay at the disappointing news. They can recover pretty quickly and see the good and the benefits above the hard, which has taken, we practice, that's why. But that's what that looks like for moms, for their kids. Is gratitude kind of leads. I have learned in my, unofficial study of this for 20 some years, that's what that looks like in kids. They don't complain as much. My kids complain. Okay, they do, but they recover more quickly than they used to. And they do get along. I don't know if that is not all because of gratitude, I'm sure, but they do have a lot of opportunities to have to like pick the good things out in each other and like focus on them and see them. And I feel like their problem solving is pretty good, because when you can see the positive options and you have a problem to solve, you can see the positive and the negative options because you've been kind of practicing that. Then when you come upon a problem, you have more choices at your fingertips to choose from. And these are all things that I never would have expected.
All right. So the next episode is a duplicate. It was one of my favorite episodes, but it was also one of your favorite episodes, not you, Don, you, the listener, from last week. And it's episode 246, which is Digital Clutter Hacks with Kath Younger. And I loved this episode because I think Kath, first of all, again, all of these episodes, it goes without saying, like, these were great guests. I really enjoyed chatting with them, having these conversations, learning from them. I think she was just an awesome person. But digital clutter is such a crux for so many people. And it is just this big like mountain that people feel like they can't climb. And so Kath broke it down really, really specifically into this is how she tackles email. This is what she does with photographs. And she has, I mean, she's developed like a course, but even walking through, and there's links to that if you're interested in learning more about her, you know, the way that she teaches and buying her course and whatnot. But just even in the episode, having her walk us through specific steps to take, like I walked away with tons of information.
Yeah, one of the things I remember is you jotting down a lot, looking down, writing, and then the other thing is this is my favorite line that you always say. You're a data nerd, and every time I hear it, I always want to just, you know,
Punch
step in
me?
and go,
You want to punch me?
no, not punch you, but just go. It doesn't matter if you put anything in front of it. It's just a nerd.
Oh.
You're-
A nerd is a nerd
Yeah.
is a nerd.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So you
Okay.
can put data if you want to make yourself feel maybe a little bit
It
better.
makes me
about
feel
being
like
the
a
nerd
smart,
part.
I don't know. I guess when I say I'm a
Nerds are
data
smart.
nerd, yeah, okay. So
Have you met a nerd that isn't smart?
I guess not.
Well, see, you could just say I'm a nerd, and I would say yes. Yes. You
But I
are.
feel like that's too generic. Okay.
But
like-
anyway,
But I do like data. So how would you?
You do.
I like it. I like a good spreadsheet. I like to see comparisons. I like what would you call that?
Do you want my expert opinion? And
Yes.
I could say we could sit down and we could talk about it and break it down why you're having this, you know, love affair with you know, numbers.
Yeah.
But I would say that you just have a passion for it,
Mhm,
and that's not a bad thing because it hasn't overtaken your life. That's good.
mhm.
You haven't left Josh for any of our guests that are super data nerds, as you would call them. So that's even better. But no, this was a really good, fun episode. It was a great conversation. And it's one of the few times that you can tell you're really engaged with the conversation and you're learning as you go.
I was just going to say that. I
Yeah.
was just going to say, I like to think that I learned at least one thing from every guest that we have, but there's some episodes where I am really learning a lot from our guest. And I would say that was one of them, 100%.
Yes. Yes. And that's what I remember from it. So
Yeah.
if you want, I can take us into the clip.
Go for it, Don.
All right. I will take us into the clip. This is a clip from the episode, and enjoy.
So I have what I call the mirror method for photos. So I feel like most people, they have their camera roll, and then most people back up their camera roll to whatever cloud is paired with their phone.
Mhm.
And then they feel good about that. They're like, great, I will never lose a photo ever again. I have them backed up. Then the problem is now you have 20,000, 10 years from now, you have 1 million photos. And how many times do you like pick up your water bottle and you're like, hey, look, here's a picture of my new water bottle. And then that photo of your water bottle is sitting there on your camera roll and in your iCloud. And it's next to like your family vacation from the previous week. And so now you are paying to store the water bottle picture because you have two choices. You either don't take it or you have to go through weekly and delete it. And so the method that I have developed is called the mirror method. And what I recommend people do is they have their camera roll, and that's kind of like your inbox or your feed per se. Like those photos just are going to stay there because sometimes you do need to find that photo of your water bottle to send it to another friend 2 weeks later. So sometimes deleting it isn't always the best choice, but your camera roll dies with your camera. Dies with your phone. When you get a new phone, like I said, I had 20,000 and it's a clean slate.
Alrighty. Do you remember this episode 250 with my now friend, Grace Trutel?
Yes, which I would say would it almost be bestie? Is that what we're going towards?
We are
or-
besties. I think if she has another child, I'm going to be the godmother. I'm pretty sure.
So unlike the Rachel relationship that you had in your head, this one was actually real.
Correct.
Okay. But quick question, when you became famous in the Ramsey sphere, would you have brought your producer with you?
Of course. So they have James Childs, that's their producer who's in the booth. Actually, I don't know who produces Rachel's show because I don't listen to Rachel's as religiously as I listen to her dad's show. But James Child and Kelly are in the booth. They're the producers. So I would have Don in the booth 100%. So
I would take the job of two people, is what you're saying.
yeah, you
Okay.
come on.
Just saying. All right.
Are you, I think you're up for it.
I mean, I could probably do it, but
Well,
I didn't know if
you know what, I'm sure we could
famous.
we could get you some additional support if you would like.
Okay.
We
I
could
mean,
bring
I'm
somebody
just saying,
else
when
from
you
your
get
team.
super famous like that, I didn't know if I was going to be riding those coattails or not.
Dude, there's no coattails. You're part of the SBO family. You're coming along. That's all there is to it. Period.
I think
Full
the studio
stop.
would look awesome. What do you think? Would it
Of
still,
It'd be
would it
super
still
organized.
would it be this home studio or would you want to go somewhere else?
Well, in this fake world that Ramsey invited me to be part of their Ramsey personalities,
Not just part of their organization, but their family, actual
the
family.
Ramsey family. Oh, well, I don't need to be adopted by them, but I do believe that we would have to be relocated to Nashville or Franklin, Tennessee, where they're based out of, because they all their staff is located there. I don't believe, to my knowledge, they have remote staff. So that might be a deal breaker for you. I mean, you might not want to uproot the family and move to Nashville, but the offer would be there. That we're a package deal.
I don't know about, Big J, but I do know you are a huge fan of Nashville.
I am. He likes Nashville too. I don't know
Would
how
he
it would
go?
play out.
Do you think you would go?
I think we would have two residences. I think we would keep New Hope and we would have a small place in Nashville.
Well, I mean, you're a megastar, so you have a private jet. You could just fly back and
Let's
forth.
not get crazy. Let's
come
not get crazy here.
The
people.
empire that will be.
Oh my gosh.
The Lori Palau,
Mhm.
organizing world. It'll be small stores every year that turned into like superstore. You'll take over Container Store.
What are you even talking about? You are off the rails. Let's get back on this.
If we're going big, let's go big. So let's go
Okay.
back, as you said, let's go back to the interview. And
We're finding motivation at work with Grace Trutel. I love Grace. I feel like if she, in all seriousness, I think she would be a great, permanent co-host with me. I haven't even told her that. I'm just now saying that. I know she has a full-time job and she hosts her own show, so it probably wouldn't be doable. But I felt like we had very good on-air chemistry in the podcasting world.
I agree. And I would say
There was a big pause. I don't know if you were on mute or just thinking about what you were going to say.
I was really contemplating what I was going to say because I think you're right. And I think you have a project that you are thinking about maybe in the future. And she might be a good person to have in that project.
Gosh, I don't know a project. And we forgot to take a break. So we need to take a break in between.
We can, I'll do it. So a commercial play for here. So like the last one, we don't do it. But no, your Enneagram show.
It would be very interested in the Enneagram show. Yeah, I would yes, but there's some logistics that we need to work out before we can, from a time perspective, from an interest perspective, from a financial perspective. There's a lot of things. Just because I want to do something doesn't mean that the timing is right. So there are things in works, people. And yeah, Grace is awesome. I love her. But the conversation specifically that we talked about we were talking about organization and motivation in the workplace. So not so much physical organization of how to organize your desk, but how to continue to be productive at work, and what happens when you get in a rut, and how do you ask for help, or how do you overcome some of those hurdles that you're facing at work. And she talked about, and Grace in her role, which is what I would love to do if I wasn't a podcaster, is she's basically the organizational, I forget what her exact title is, but she's basically she's like the school psychologist of the office. So she comes in and helps people resolve conflict and deal with, it's not a human resources role. It's more of like organizational psychology type of a role, which is what I love. And so she was talking about strategies that she uses with her team in her company. Well, it's not her company, but the company that she works for. And that, things that you can use at home. Like, so she was giving real life examples of that one that I guess I called it like the why exercise, where every time you're like, I don't feel like getting up for work today. Why? Well, because I went to bed late last night. Why? Because I went out and you keep asking why. And it sounds almost like a child being petulant, asking their parent. But when you peel back these layers, you finally get to kind of the crux of like the root of the problem. And it was just really fascinating. And there's a psychology behind it. And she was explaining it. And I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think that's why the two of you get along so well, was the fact that she broke it down to not just, and by the way, folks, this is going to be foreshadowing to some episodes we have coming up in the pipeline where we break down the whys of certain things. And the psychology behind it. And I think it's going to be some interesting shows we have lined up for that. But I think that's what you do really well, is you don't look at clutter just as clutter, but the reasons why clutter happens. Because if you don't identify the why, then you're not ever going to fix it, because it's going to come back again and again and again and again until you understand the why and get that part of it. So yeah, it was an interesting episode and I really enjoyed it.
Likewise. So let's roll into a clip and then we'll come back and I'll let Dawn kick off our next favorite episode.
Basically, so just show up, just like you said. So if I know, okay, I've got plans to work out today at 5:30 p.m., but I really don't want to work out. I really don't want to. What I will do is I will put on my exercise clothes and I will drive to the gym and I will sit in the parking lot. And I tell myself before I go, you don't have to work out today. We don't, you know what? We don't feel it. We're not going to work out, but we are going to get dressed and go to the gym and at least do our part, right? Like that's what I'm going to do. And so I will do that. And I will go sit in the parking lot. 9 times out of 10, once you have gotten in your clothes and you're at the physical location, you're going to work out. However, I will say sometimes I don't. And I think that's important to listen to your body, where like there are times where I will get dressed and go to the gym and I will sit in the parking lot and I'll say, I don't want to do this today. And I will leave. And I think that's valuable information too. Sometimes
I love that. I mean, because I was like, you've already gone that far to like actually like be in the physical location, to then turn around. Like you really must not want to do it.
And it's important to listen. Yes. Yeah. It's important to listen to your body and where your mind is. You know, I think mental health days, I love them. I preach about them all the time. Like, but I think it's really important that also makes you feel like you're not, I know a lot of us have really negative internal dialogues. I think that's something that women struggle with. I know men do too, but I think that women, especially because of all the pressure to be everything at once, when you aren't able to be everything at once, a lot of us will really beat ourselves up for it, right? Like, okay, well, I'm just not going to work out today. I guess I'm lazy, you know, or I guess I'm whatever. And like, that's what we tell ourselves. And it's so negative. So at the very least, with this just show up mentality, it's like, you know what, I'm going to do it today because I made a commitment to myself. And again, that's kind of we're going back to the whys, because like, why are you working out? Hopefully it's not because you want to look good for somebody else. Hopefully it's because it makes you feel better. And, you know, whether it's to look better, to feel better, to be healthier, whatever your motivations are, as long as they're for you, then if you know, like, look, it's Tuesday, it's 6 o'clock, I'm tired, I don't want to do it, but I am going to go because I made a commitment to myself that I will at least go to the gym. That counts, right? Like you can check that box. You don't have to have a really awesome workout every single day and like be super sore and tired. I will say I've just recently started going back to the gym after a very long hiatus. And it was the same sort of mentality where I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get dressed and go.
All right. episode 250.
Nope,
Finding-
251.
Episode
just-
250. I'm sorry, I lost my place. All right,
Do you
episode
remember this
two-
one?
I
Sorry.
do remember this one. Episode 251 is finding.
You're.
God dang it! I did it again. I'm struggling here.
Oh
Okay,
my
here we go.
gosh. Do you
Yeah.
have it together?
I do. I think
Okay.
so.
Okay.
Okay. Episode 251, Organizing for a Child with Special Needs with Amanda Cunningham, which this one was I don't want to say fun episode,
Right.
because the subject matter is, but it was interesting to hear. The reason why I'm using fun here is because it's interesting to hear the fun ways she has to deal with certain things with a person, with a kid with special needs. And I don't have, I wouldn't say my son Gavin has special needs, but he's dyslexic. So we struggle with that. We struggled with it for a while, because when he first started going to school, he went to an immersion school, which is a Spanish immersion school. So they learned Spanish first, and then they learned English second. So in kindergarten, it was 90% they spoke in Spanish and 10% they spoke in English. And as you go up through the grade levels, like by sixth grade, you should be, 80-20, where they go in reverse, where you're speaking 80% English, 20% Spanish.
Wow.
So I had some guilt there where I felt like I hurt him because, they had a hard time identifying the fact that he was dyslexic. So that we didn't really identify it till he was in first grade. So I think I found the episode comforting and interesting simply because of the guilt I have as a parent for that particular reason. And I think it's hard for you as a parent when you deal with kids with special needs, is that you have that guilt because you feel like it's either I should do more or I haven't done enough or it's my fault. And it was just an interesting, and it was a helpful episode for me, and it hit home.
Well, I'm glad that it resonated with you. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's true. I love Amanda's story. And just to quickly give you guys some perspective. So Amanda's daughter, Rory, was born with Down syndrome. And unlike a lot of people who are born with Down syndrome, where it's detected in utero, Rory went through a pretty normal pregnancy and did not find out about her diagnosis until she was born, which really just, for all of the reasons, just kind of just threw her world into a tailspin. And she also had a toddler at home. And so she was kind of just juggling everything. And as she was navigating life as a mom with a daughter that had a lot of needs and was constantly getting services like early intervention, which was great that she had access to all of these resources, the organization piece to kind of keep all these balls juggled in the air without dropping, it could be overwhelming. And so she was actually looking for a physical tool, like an organization, like a binder, an agenda, some sort of day plan or something to help keep all of the constant flow of information. And these are the exercises, and this is when her appointments are, and this is what she needs, and blah, 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 all the things corralled in one cohesive spot. And she couldn't find it. So she did what any entrepreneur does, is she created it. She created it for herself, and then eventually created this company called the Glory Days, which is her product that has a host of different things, from planners to agendas to checklists, all the things, but it's specifically geared for parents who are, or people, I should say, who are caretakers. So whether you are somebody that's caretaking for an elderly parent or a sibling, or somebody that's caretaking for a child, they have special areas for notes and folders for, follow visits and whatever, all the things, because it came from this place of, I know what I needed and I couldn't find it. So I created it. And I just, she was very raw and candid about all of the emotions that she went through, and, detachment and all of these different things. And I applauded and appreciated her honesty and authenticity about it, as opposed to just being like, everything's great, which is what a lot of people tend to do, and just kind of put a facade out there, where I think she really was very open and honest and peeled back the curtain. So that was, I think, what most resonated with me. And I think we could play a clip here where she was talking a little bit about it. Go ahead.
That's a very big part of my story and my experience was her birth. And it's hard for people to understand unless they've walked it. There's trauma in this experience, in terms of you have an expectation of who your child is going to be. And naively, a parent of a neurotypical child, when their baby arrives, this baby fulfills that expectation. Oh, they're going to be a boy. They're going to have mom or dad's eyes. They're going to be athletic. They're going to grow up and be into literature. Like, you have all of these ideas of what your child's going to be. And with a neurotypical child, or, they don't have diversity in their physical ability, you have that story slowly unfold for you, that your child's going to be who they're going to be. They're going to grow into the person and their personality unique to them. And we kind of have this naive idea that we can create that before they arrive, as a young mother. And then when Rory came, I had this idea of who my daughter was going to be. And it wasn't a slow unraveling of that idea. It was a swoop. It was just every expectation for her life, every milestone for her life that I held in my heart for 29 years of what a daughter-mother relationship would be like. It was like the air was sucked out of the room as soon as that doctor said, this baby has Down syndrome. My first, and I know this is so cliche, but my first reaction was her wedding day. Like, that's the first thing that came to my mind after those words were said was, who will love her outside of her family? Like, who is she going to have a wedding day? And that was also a very naive thought, because as time has gone by and I've learned who Aurora is, and I've learned what's possible in the life of a person with Down syndrome, that's not something that's necessarily not going to happen. She very well could fall in love and have a life partner in some way as the years move forward. But in that moment, the social expectations that I had viewed for so many years about somebody's life with a disability or with an intellectual disability, that felt very out of reach. It felt taken immediately.
All right. On a lighter note, Dawn, episode 255, travel tips with my friend, Janelle Azar. And Janelle really is my friend, like really in real life. She is my friend. She's one of my SBO partners. And she is a travel fanatic. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's what came to my mind. And she has some great travel tips. And I said, come on, we're going to showcase you and have you share some of your tips and tricks with our people. So that's what we did. Janelle is based in Michigan. So anybody out there that's looking for a professional organizer in Michigan, give Janelle a shout. She's awesome. We love her. And yeah, we got on this whole big debate about whether you should roll or you should fold. That was a big thing. Do you remember that conversation?
I do remember the conversation, and I'm a bad example because I rolled and fold. So, and before the dark times, I traveled at least once a month because I went to a lot of conferences, went to a lot of, stuff for clients and stuff. But those were the dark days. Now that we're in the dark days, it was kind of refreshing to hear there is light at the end of the tunnel. We are going to start traveling soon and things like that. So it was a fun episode. I couldn't remember if you were a roller or a folder.
I've done both. I have done both. I'm not religiously, I will do what makes sense. So I actually, my default is still a fold, but like when we were in Austin for our retreat, I was rolling, like I have a dress that I rolled and stuck it in my boot shaft, so I get creative. I'm also a big packing cube person, which we didn't really talk about on the show, but I like packing cubes. I think they keep things neat and orderly. So that's something that I do, but it really spawned this conversation that went past the episode and went onto social media where people were commenting in our Facebook group and on Instagram, the roll versus fold. So I don't know. I think it was pretty evenly split. I'd have to double check with Kimberly what the results were, but I feel like it was pretty close with rollers and folders. So
I use those compartment things for my equipment.
Oh, the packing cubes. Yeah.
I use those for cubes because I have one suitcase for my clothes and another a big metal suitcase that it's designed especially for equipment. And that's where cables go, microphones, everything is in those cubes. And
so if they lose that on your way, you're screwed if that gets lost.
Oh yeah. And there's probably like $6,000 worth of equipment.
Oh my
in that
gosh,
suitcase.
it stresses me out.
Yeah. So, but I think we can play a clip now of the episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
The destination and researching, right? So for me, it's always really important to take note of the things that are going to involve any kind of transportation. So if you're flying, if you're driving, whatever that may be, and any kind of, especially nowadays, any restrictions that may be in place as you're going different locations. That's huge. And you have to plan ahead for that. Absolutely. You have to make sure you're researching those restrictions and you have to have those things set up in place. So I would say that would be one of the first most important steps. And when it comes to.
All right, before we go into our last two episodes, I guess let's take one more quick break, and then we're going to come back. We'll wrap up our final two episodes that were my favorite of 2021. So sit tight. How many of you have ever thought, I have absolutely nothing to wear, even though you're staring at a rack filled with clothes? If that's you, you are absolutely not alone. I dreaded shopping. I dreaded the thought of shopping until I met my friend, Jeannie Stithma-Winnie, who's the founder of Your Color Guru. Your Color Guru looks at your personalized style, hair color, eye color, complexion, and helps match what color schemes look best for you. So instead of sitting there buying things that you think are going to look good or that you hope look good, Jeannie actually allows you to shop freely within the guise of saying, these are the colors that make you look your best, which quite frankly, who doesn't want to look their best? So she put together a special coupon code for This Organized Life listeners. And I can tell you that I've been getting tons of thank you notes from people saying this has completely revolutionized how they shop and allowed them to make smarter choices when they are going to, whether it's online shopping or in-person shopping. So I encourage you to check this out. Visit her website, Your Color Guru, and she gives a special promo code to all This Organized Life listeners. Just punch in the code Organized Life and you can get 10% off your consultation. I am telling you, it is a game changer. It was a game changer for me, and it is a game changer for all of the people who I know have been working with her for the past 2 years. So definitely check it out. And when you talk to her, make sure that you tell her that I sent you. All right, Don, this is all you.
So we're going to go with episode 256.
Mhm.
Notice how I nailed that?
You did. Nailed it.
I did. And we're talking about Moving Made Simple with Ali Wensky. Did I get the last name right?
Yes, you did.
Nice.
We didn't even practice it. Yes.
We didn't. And I noticed I got all the hard last names, just saying. But this was actually an interesting episode because it brought back childhood trauma, because when I was growing up, we moved all the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I would like to say my parents were in the military. They were not. So that's not why we moved all the time.
Were you
But,
gypsies?
my parents are gypsies. Yes. So I say them because I didn't really get a choice. It's not like I could stay. But I could honestly tell you 4 years of high school, I went to 4 different high schools. And the last 2 years of high school, I went from Colorado to California. Yeah. And then it wasn't just in California, it wasn't just a different high school, it was a different city. So I went to 2 different cities in my last 2 years of high school. So
Oh, I'm so sorry. That's really rough.
yeah. So but it was interesting to hear her take on it. And she seems, it seems like an oxymoron when I'm going to say this, but she seemed like it was fun to move all the time.
Well, she did. She made it more of an adventure. Again, I think it's different when it's your choice versus your kid and you're being like, we're moving and you have no say so. But she wrote a book. I mean, obviously she's passionate about it. She wrote a book called The Art of Happy Moving. So I think she is happy about it. And I liked how she approached things about making a bucket list of all the things that you want to do in your town or your city before you go, and how to go out and make friends, for specifically geared for adults, not kids, because they'll be in school and activities, so they'll naturally meet people, but like how to go out and start to meet people, because when you move to a new town or city or state as an adult, unless you're, working with somebody, like it's hard to meet people. It's hard to just go up and make friends as an adult. And she talked about that. And that was like a large portion. I feel like the relational piece was a big part of her whole approach to things, less about the I mean, yes, there was tactical logistics about checklists and things like that, but I think really building those relational foundations is a big part of kind of what she is sharing with people. And I like that. I found that refreshing, because I think we get so hung up in talking about the actual practical things that we forget about the other stuff to help us integrate into this next chapter of our lives. Would you agree?
I would agree. And I think there's no better time to play a clip from this episode.
I love it. Go for it.
So I feel like we put so much pressure on ourselves and our children to make friends when they started a new school, but just realize it takes time. It doesn't happen right away. And I think one of the hard things too is you've left from your peak of friendships from wherever you left. All of that time and effort that you put into making those friendships, it took time. And then you start, you go from the top of that peak to zero. And so if people are not ready for kind of that jump in relationships, it can shock you. And so just be aware that's what's going to happen, and that it's going to take time to build, and that it's going to be great and it's going to be fine. It's just putting in the effort to build those relationships again.
All right, Don, here we go. We've made it. The final favorite episode of 2021. Go ahead. You want to drum roll it and announce it?
I will. And you call him JP. I call him Big J. But, he was on the show. I get to say hi to him every once in a while. When he sticks his head in the office, he's nice enough to always say hi, Dawn. But this is episode 257, and it's the annual, in this case, 2021 holiday gift guide. And it was interesting to hear the two of you, how you approached gift giving, and how your lists were happening almost in real time. Like, hey, put that on the list of things you can get me, and put that on the list of things you can get me. And I thought that was pretty interesting, and a couple cute moments. How about that?
Oh, that's sweet. I always laugh when people use me and cute in the same sentence, because I don't say it. But yes, people tend to enjoy our dynamic, which is not scripted. We just have, I think, a a healthy organic banter between the two of us. And Josh likes being in the spotlight a little bit. So he's always a fun guest because he absolutely rises to the occasion. And yeah, I think it was interesting. I asked him to come and co-host our holiday gift guide. And really the only parameters I said is like, what are your favorite, what are going to be your go-to gifts? What do you want to let the masses know? And we approached it differently. And which again is pretty true to who we are and our marriage and, you know, what we look for in gifts. And yeah, it was fun. And I did take notes, even though he did give me a list of things that he wanted. And his birthday is December 17th. So it's like I have birthday and then Christmas, and it's a lot. And he is definitely more of a volume person. Like he likes stuff where I don't really, that's not as important to me. I like things, don't get me wrong, but I don't necessarily want volumes of presents. I'm more of a minimalist in that way. I'd like a few things, and too much of anything gets me actually stressed out and overwhelmed, where he likes options. So I think we approached our lists like that. But it was fun. And what else? I think, after he was on the show, he was talking about these athleisure wear. One of the things that he was talking about, which I think this might be the clip, I'm not sure. But he was talking about this brand, Vuari. I don't even know how to pronounce that word. We're not sponsoring them. But as soon as he mentioned them on my show, all they are is over my social media. Like I can't open Instagram or Facebook without seeing an ad for the Vuari joggers. It's kind of annoying. So Vuari, if you'd like to sponsor this organized life, that's fine. You can talk to us. But yeah, he mentioned them a few times and now I can't get rid of them. So thank you, interwebs. What else? Any other last minute comments on that episode? But it was fun. I like it. And it's, you know, a glimpse into the real behind the scenes of this organized life.
Yes, it was. And here's a clip from my fellow sneakerhead from that episode.
Like athleisure, which is this thing that I think now is here to stay, which I'm very thankful for. I think it's funny because I think, you know, when before 2020, you'd go places and you'd say, who are these people at Starbucks who could just like wear sweatpants all day, or like, what job do they have? I remember being in some meeting when I was in a meeting at Google, and their office oversees this park. And I just see somebody out there at like a solid 10:30 on like a Tuesday afternoon, just doing yoga. And I was like, what does that guy do? Because I kind of want his job. And so the pandemic allowed me to go buy clothes that were more comfortable, instead of, not that I wear suits ever, but jeans and t-shirts. And so there's a few brands that I really liked. I'm a sucker for a good Instagram ad, but like Vuari is this one company. They make jogger pants, they make shorts. I own all their shorts really. They've got liner shorts, unliner shorts. They're good for running, they're good for exercise. But I just think they're a nice lightweight short. And again, I haven't tried their sweatpants, but the sweatpants I do like are this ones made by Mack Weldon. And so Mack Weldon's another like small business. Actually, I believe the CEO used to work at Comcast with me, though I didn't realize that he was interested in sweatpants at the time. But it's just great, like made in America, like awesome quality, small business, like you were saying, supporting that. And then I think the last one, and this is, as I'm sure will come as no surprise to you, is so like Lori's probably said in the past, I'm a bit of a sneakerhead. I mean, nowhere near the levels of some other folks I know, but I believe that every person every person somewhere, especially if you grew up in a city, will always have some sort of affinity for the Air Jordan 1s. And they've made such a comeback in terms of like the styles and the guest designers and the colors that they offer. And so I'm a big fan actually of the Air Jordan 1, the lows, which are actually, they're not new, but basically just the low version of the Jordans. And what I love about them is they come in so many different styles and colors, but they're also really affordable. So I think if you've got somebody in your life who is, again, either a basketball fan or grew up in a city, I just think that getting them one of those Air Jordan 1 lows, which you could usually find for under $100 on either Nike or StockX, are like it's a big hit, and it's something you don't really think of buying for yourself. I think if you're a guy, because I think you're looking at usually the regular Jordans, which are like $300-400, and you don't want to spend that much. But I think this one's a real fun gift to get for somebody that they won't expect.
All right, Don. Well, we're at the end. We have to wrap this up because we have another recording coming up. It's the end of the year. Thank you for another year producing amazing content. Thank you for listening out there. I hope everybody has had a great year. And if you haven't had a great year, I'm really hoping that you'll come alongside us in 2022 on this Organized Life podcast. We've got lots of great guests, great content. We're going to be kicking off 2022 with none other than Mel Robbins, who many of you know is a leader in the behavior, motivation, self-help industry. And so I'm super excited to just kick off 2022 with an awesome, awesome guest. But again, thank you so much for always joining me. I appreciate you. And Don, thank you for being here. And until next year, I'm Lori Palau. Peace out.